At our family Christmas dinner, my son delivered the cruelest blow imaginable. "You're not welcome in this family anymore, Dad." I stared at him in shock, then turned to my wife, Beverly, waiting for her to say anything to defend me. She just sat there in silence, staring at her plate. In that moment, I realized I was completely alone, abandoned by the two people I'd sacrificed everything for. They saw a defeated old man with no allies and no options. What they didn't realize was that sometimes the most dangerous person is the one with nothing left to lose. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment below and let me know where are you watching this story from. Because what my family did to me that Christmas night might be happening to someone in your town right now. The smell of sage stuffing filled our home as I finished preparing what would become the most devastating Thanksgiving of my 67 years. I'd been up since 5 that morning, just like I had for 38 straight years, preparing every dish myself. The herb-rubbed turkey-whipped potatoes and green bean casserole that had become our family tradition. Lucian arrived with Camilla as daylight faded. My 35-year-old son moved stiffly through our front door worry lines, creasing his face. His wife followed her manicured fingers, already reaching for her phone. At 32, Camilla carried herself with the polished confidence of Cleveland's real estate market. But tonight, her charm felt mechanical. "Everything looks wonderful, Grayson," Beverly said, though her voice trembled slightly. My wife seemed unusually nervous as we settled around the table. I carved the turkey with methodical precision. Conversation started normally, but tension crackled beneath every exchange. "Lucian, how's the consulting business?" I asked, reaching for gravy. "You mentioned some new clients last time we talked." "Dad, don't worry about it," Lucien replied curtly, not looking up from his plate. "I'm just interested in—" "Seriously, it's fine. You don't need to keep track of everything I do." The sharpness caught me off guard. I wasn't keeping track. I was making conversation. Camilla looked up from her phone. "Grayson, maybe Lucien doesn't want to discuss work during family dinner. Since when is asking about my son's career inappropriate?" I asked, genuinely confused. "Since it becomes constant questioning," Lucien muttered. "Constant questioning." "Son, I asked one question." Lucien set down his fork with a deliberate clink. When he looked up, his eyes held a coldness I'd never seen before. "Dad," he said with a flat, rehearsed tone, "you're here because it's your house, but that doesn't mean you're welcome here anymore." The words struck me like a physical blow. My chest tightened as I struggled to process what I'd heard. "What did you say?" I whispered. "You heard me?" Lucien continued, never breaking eye contact. "Things need to change. We can't keep pretending everything's normal when it's not." "What's not normal?" I asked. "About your job?" "It's not just that, Dad. It's everything. The constant prying, the way you insert yourself into every conversation, the way you make everyone uncomfortable." "Make everyone uncomfortable?" My voice rose. "This is Thanksgiving dinner. I'm trying to talk to my family. See, you can't even accept feedback without getting defensive and loud," Camilla interjected with practiced patience. "This is exactly what Lucien and I have been discussing." I turned to Beverly, expecting her to defend me, to tell them they were being cruel and ridiculous. Instead, she stared at her untouched plate hands, folded tightly in her lap, saying nothing. "You're always questioning, always needing to control every situation," Lucien added. "It's exhausting to be around." "Control?" I asked one question about your business. "And there it is again, you can't hear yourself," Camilla said, shaking her head. "You're being argumentative right now, proving our point." "It's not personal, Grayson," she continued with that practiced sympathy. "We just need some space, some boundaries until you can work on being less overwhelming." The room spun as I tried to understand how our family tradition had become an ambush, how asking about Lucien's work had escalated into a character assassination. Lucien and Camilla left immediately after that, barely touching Beverly's pumpkin pie. They mumbled excuses about early meetings, but their departure felt like an escape mission accomplished. I sat staring at our half-eaten feast. Beverly moved like a ghost, clearing plates in mechanical silence, avoiding my eyes as she scraped food into containers. That's when I realized this hadn't been spontaneous. The careful timing Camilla's prepared remarks, Beverly's guilty silence, everything pointed to coordination and planning. But as I watched my wife's hands shake while handling our dishes, I couldn't tell whether those tremors came from guilt over betraying me or fear of what might come next. Sleep refused to come that night. I lay staring at the ceiling, replaying every word from dinner, every gesture that had passed between Lucien, Camilla, and Beverly. The digital clock mocked me, 2 a.m., then 3, then 4, as my mind churned through possibilities I didn't want to consider. Finally, giving up, I made my way to my study, the same room where I'd built my manufacturing business from the ground up. This desk had seen me through contract negotiations and strategic planning that turned a small Cleveland factory into a regional powerhouse. If I could navigate corporate warfare, surely I could figure out what was happening in my own family. But something about Lucien's words kept nagging at me. That devastating line about not being welcome, it hadn't sounded spontaneous. There was a rehearsed quality, like he'd practiced the phrasing, and Camilla's responses had been too smooth, too prepared. In business, I'd learned to recognize when someone was reading from a script. What had I actually done wrong? I'd asked about his consulting business, a normal parental question. Where was the controlling behavior they'd accused me of? The more I analyzed the evening, the more it felt like I'd walked into a trap. Morning brought no clarity, only Beverly moving around the kitchen with unusual urgency. I found her clutching a coffee mug, eyes red-rimmed, and avoiding mine. "Beverly, we need to talk about last night." Her shoulders sagged. "Grayson, what the hell just happened at our dinner table?" She started crying, then quiet tears from somewhere deep and painful. "Lucian's been calling me for weeks, almost every day when you go for your morning walks." My chest tightened. "Calling about what?" "About you," she whispered, finally meeting my eyes. "He says you're losing your mental sharpness, making poor financial decisions. He keeps telling me we need to protect you from yourself." "What poor financial decisions?" "The investment account you opened last month. He said it was risky for your age. The way you've been reorganizing files, moving things around. He said those were warning signs." I stared at her. The investment account was a conservative bond fund. The file reorganization was because I'd bought a new cabinet. "Beverly, those aren't warning signs of anything except normal life management." "I know, but Lucien sounded so concerned, so knowledgeable. He kept saying, 'Mom, we can't wait until it's too late. We have to act while Dad can still understand what's best for him.'" The manipulation was breathtaking. Lucien had been systematically undermining my credibility with my own wife, turning normal activities into evidence of decline. "And you believed him?" "I didn't want to, but he's our son Grayson. He's a financial consultant. I thought maybe he could see things I couldn't. I felt so torn between you and him. Classic divide and conquer strategy. Make Beverly doubt her judgment position himself as the expert, create a crisis requiring immediate action. I'd seen similar tactics in corporate boardrooms. "Beverly, look at me. Do I seem mentally impaired right now? In this conversation, do I sound confused or incompetent?" She shook her head slowly. "No, you sound exactly like yourself. Sharp and analytical, just like always." That's when I made the decision that would change everything. I was going to approach this. Like any business crisis, gather intelligence, identify the real players, understand their motivations, develop a counter strategy. I spent the morning systematically reviewing recent months, checking my calendar against memory. Lucien's visits had increased in frequency, and Beverly had found excuses to give us privacy during each one. What had seemed like thoughtful behavior now looked like orchestrated opportunity. Then I went to check the mail and discovered our monthly bank statement was missing. I always kept financial documents meticulously organized in the same filing system I'd used for decades. Every statement, every investment summary had its place. But as I searched through the files, a cold realization settled over me. Someone had been going through my personal papers, and they'd been careful enough to cover their tracks almost. The next morning, I approached my filing cabinet like a crime scene investigator. What I'd initially dismissed as a missing bank statement turned out to be the tip of an iceberg that chilled me to the bone. 3 months' worth of bank statements had vanished entirely. Insurance policies and property deeds showed subtle signs of photocopying, slight misalignments, and paper texture changes that only someone with my obsessive organizational habits would notice. The timeline was damning. Every missing document corresponded exactly with Lucien's increased visits to our house. When I confronted Beverly about the missing papers, she seemed genuinely confused. "Grayson, I never touch your files. You know how particular you are about your system." Her bewilderment appeared authentic, which meant someone else had been systematically harvesting my financial information while she remained oblivious. I needed professional confirmation of what I suspected, so I drove to First National Bank to meet with Jim Morrison, a man I'd done business with for 15 years. Jim's discomfort was obvious the moment I mentioned potential unauthorized access to my accounts. "Grayson," he said, loosening his tie, "I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but someone did request information about your accounts last month. They had what appeared to be a valid power of attorney document. My blood pressure spiked. I never signed any power of attorney. The signature matched our records perfectly. We ran it through our verification system twice. Jim pulled up the digital file on his computer. The inquiry was specifically about account balances and asset valuations, not transaction history, just current worth. Who made the request? Your son Lucian, accompanied by a woman. Not your daughter-in-law, though. Someone we didn't recognize. Blonde, professional-looking, carried herself like a lawyer or real estate agent. The pieces were falling into place with terrifying clarity. Lucian hadn't been acting alone, and this mysterious woman suggested a level of premeditation that went far beyond family concern. Jim, I need copies of everything related to that inquiry, and I need you to flag my accounts for any future access attempts. Already done, Grayson. Something felt off about the whole interaction. My next call was to Margaret Thompson, our family attorney for the past decade. Margaret's revelation hit me like a sledgehammer. Grayson, someone called my office 3 weeks ago asking detailed questions about your will and estate planning. The caller claimed to be a family representative concerned about your capacity to make sound financial decisions. What did you tell them? Nothing, of course. I explained that I couldn't discuss your affairs without your explicit consent, but they were persistent, asking about procedures for updating beneficiaries and the timeline for probate proceedings. The audacity was breathtaking. They weren't just planning to take control of my assets. They were researching what would happen after I died. Margaret, I need you to run a check on something else. Has anyone been consulting with elder law attorneys about guardianship procedures for someone matching my profile? 20 minutes later, Margaret called back with information that made my hands shake. Grayson, I contacted my colleague Rodriguez, who specializes in guardianship law. He confirms that someone matching Lucian's description consulted with him about initiating proceedings for an elderly parent with declining judgment and increasing financial vulnerability. The systematic nature of their campaign was becoming undeniable. Forged power of attorney documents to access my financial information. Legal consultations about stripping away my autonomy. Missing financial records that would be crucial evidence of my competency. This wasn't spontaneous concern from a loving family. This was a carefully orchestrated assault on my independence. I sat in my car outside Margaret's office trying to process the magnitude of what I'd uncovered. 3 months of methodical preparation, professional assistance from unknown accomplices, legal research into the most efficient ways to declare me incompetent. But the most chilling discovery was yet to come. Searching through Beverly's purse for aspirin that evening, something I'd done countless times during our marriage, I found an appointment card that stopped my heart cold. Dr. Marcus Webb, geriatric specialist. Scheduled for the following week. An appointment I had never made for an evaluation I had never requested with a doctor I had never heard of. The trap was closing around me and I was running out of time. The first thing I did the next morning was call Dr. Marcus Webb's office. The receptionist's cheerful voice confirmed my worst suspicions. "Oh yes, Mr. Whitlock. Your appointment is scheduled for Tuesday at 10 a.m. for a cognitive assessment. Your daughter-in-law, Camilla, was so thoughtful to arrange this, mentioning her concerns about your recent memory issues. Memory issues I didn't have arranged by someone with no legal right to schedule my medical evaluations. I'm calling to cancel that appointment. I never requested any cognitive assessment. But Sir Mrs. Whitlock explained that you'd been having episodes of confusion. There are no episodes of confusion, and I'm canceling immediately. This wasn't just family manipulation anymore. Someone was building a medical case for my incompetency using fabricated symptoms. I needed professional help to understand what I was facing. Marcus Torres came recommended through my manufacturing network, a former FBI agent specializing in financial crimes. When I explained the situation in his downtown Cleveland office, his expression grew grim. Mr. Whitlock, what you're describing fits a pattern I've seen in elder financial abuse cases. Let me run a comprehensive background check on your daughter-in-law. 3 days later, Torres called with information that left me speechless. Grayson Camilla owes $275,000 from a failed commercial real estate investment. She borrowed from private lenders, not banks, which means higher interest rates and aggressive collection methods. My hands gripped the phone tighter. Does Lucien know? Nothing. She's hidden the entire crisis from him. The investment failed 18 months ago, but she's been covering it up ever since. Payments are due January 25th, which explains the Thanksgiving urgency. That timeline hit me hard. 18 months ago, Lucian and Camilla had just celebrated their second wedding anniversary. She'd been lying to my son about her financial situation for most of their marriage. Her current real estate income barely covers basic expenses, Torres continued. She's been juggling minimum payments and dodging creditor calls. Grayson, this woman is desperate. But Torres wasn't finished. There's more disturbing news. I found records showing Camilla worked with elderly clients in Phoenix, Arizona, before coming to Cleveland 4 years ago. Multiple complaints were filed with the state real estate board. 4 years. She'd been in Cleveland for 4 years, which meant she'd spent 2 years establishing herself in our community, gaining our trust before marrying Lucian. The calculation was chilling. What kind of complaints? I asked. Elderly homeowners reported that Camilla obtained copies of their bank statements, insurance policies, and property valuations without permission. She claimed it was for market analysis, but clients felt she was overstepping boundaries. The Arizona Real Estate Commission opened an investigation. What happened? She left the state suddenly right before the investigation concluded. Moved to Cleveland, changed her references, started fresh. Some references I called don't even remember her. Now I understood why Lucian had met her so soon after she arrived in Cleveland. She'd been looking for a new identity, a fresh start, and my successful son had been the perfect cover story. Torres, how long has she been planning this operation against me? 6 months, Grayson. I found evidence Camilla's been researching Pennsylvania guardianship laws since summer, long before Lucian knew about your supposed mental decline. She downloaded legal forms, researched precedent cases, even contacted elder law attorneys. The timeline was becoming crystal clear. Camilla had spent 2 years building credibility in Cleveland, 2 years married to Lucian, gaining access to our family, and 6 months systematically planning to destroy my independence. She's not opportunistic, Torres concluded. She's a professional predator who targets elderly people and their families. She came to Cleveland specifically to reinvent herself, and marrying Lucian gave her the perfect cover. As I hung up, I realized my son had been manipulated from the very beginning. Camilla hadn't fallen in love with Lucian. She'd selected him as her pathway into a financially stable family with vulnerable elderly parents. The question now was whether I could save Lucian before Camilla's desperation drove her to even more extreme measures. Armed with Torres's devastating report, I knew I needed legal armor. My first call was to Sebastian Martinez, an attorney specializing in elder abuse prevention. Mr. Whitlock, what you're facing is a sophisticated financial predator. We need multiple layers of protection immediately. Within 48 hours, Martinez arranged a comprehensive mental competency evaluation with Dr. Patricia Williams. The 3-hour assessment covered memory recall to complex problem solving. The results were unequivocal. Grayson, your cognitive function scores significantly above average for your age group, Dr. Williams explained. You show no signs of dementia or impaired judgment. Any court would recognize your complete mental competency. Martinez used those results to file preemptive legal motions preventing guardianship abuse. We're creating an irrevocable trust structure, making it virtually impossible for anyone to access your assets, even with a temporary guardianship order. I implemented digital fortress protocols, changing every password, adding 2-factor authentication, creating detailed documentation of daily activities. Every conversation with Torres, every legal consultation was meticulously recorded. But the most crucial discovery was unplanned. While installing a security camera system Martinez had recommended, I found a small recording device hidden behind our kitchen coffee maker. Had Lucian planted surveillance in my own home? When Beverly returned from book club that evening, I confronted her. Beverly, what is this? I demanded, holding up the tiny recorder. Instead of guilty denial, she smiled, actually smiled for the first time in weeks. Grayson, she said, settling into her chair, I've been married to you for 42 years. Did you really think I would betray you? The world tilted. What are you talking about? I've been recording Lucian's phone calls for 3 weeks. Every manipulative conversation, every coaching session with Camilla, every lie about your mental state. My mouth fell open. You've been... what? Beverly returned with a digital recorder and notebook filled with dates and times. Listen to this. Lucian's voice filled our living room. Mom, you have to stick to the script. When Dad asks questions, seem worried about his memory. Camilla says it's crucial you appear concerned about his decision-making. Then Camilla's voice, sharp and calculating. Beverly, this only works if Grayson thinks he's losing you too. You have to seem conflicted, forced to choose sides. I stared at Beverly in amazement. How long have you known? Since the second phone call. Lucian sounded wrong, rehearsed like someone was feeding him lines. So I started recording everything. I have hours of evidence, Grayson. Camilla coaching Lucian, discussing asset seizure timelines, even laughing about fooling that old man. The relief was overwhelming. My wife had been playing confused, manipulated spouse, while secretly gathering evidence to destroy their conspiracy. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I needed them to think it was working. If they suspected I was onto them, they might have changed tactics or disappeared. This way, we have everything on tape. We spent an hour listening to recordings documenting the entire conspiracy. Camilla's desperation about debts, Lucien's growing discomfort with deception, fake medical appointments, forged documents, even discussions about what to do if I became suspicious. Beverly, you've been conducting your own investigation this whole time. 42 years of marriage taught me strategy too, she said with a wry smile. The recordings revealed Camilla's manipulation in devastating detail. Her coaching Lucian on emotional pressure tactics, her research into Pennsylvania guardianship laws, her timeline for liquidating my assets, even her backup plans if I proved more difficult than expected. Most chilling was a conversation where Camilla discussed the corrupt doctors she'd found someone willing to sign competency evaluations without proper examination for the right price. Beverly, I said, taking her hands, you've saved us. We're not done yet, she replied. Camilla scheduled another medical evaluation for you next week with a different doctor, one she claims will be more understanding of the family's concerns. As we planned our next moves together, I realized the tables had completely turned. Camilla and Lucian thought they were closing in on a confused old man and his manipulated wife. Instead, they were walking into an ambush orchestrated by two people they'd underestimated entirely. The trap was set, and we held all the cards. Beverly proved to be a natural actress. The next morning, she called Lucian with panic in her voice. Lucian, I'm worried about your father. He's asking strange questions, acting suspicious. He keeps asking about phone calls and medical appointments I don't know anything about. I could hear Lucian's sharp breath through the phone. What kind of questions? He wanted to know if anyone had been through his files. He seemed confused about missing bank statements. Lucien, I think he's getting paranoid. I'll be right over. Keep him calm until I get there. We'd positioned recording equipment throughout the living room, hidden behind picture frames. This conversation would be documented from multiple angles. Lucian arrived within 30 minutes looking haggard and desperate. His appearance was disheveled, wrinkled shirt, unshaven face, the look of a man who hadn't slept in days. Mom, where's Dad? Right here, son, I said, entering with coffee, playing the slightly confused elderly man. Lucian, Beverly said you wanted to talk. Dad, Mom mentioned you've been asking questions. I think maybe you're getting mixed up about some details. I sat down heavily, adopting a puzzled expression. Mixed up, I just noticed some papers missing. Bank statements, insurance documents. Do you know anything about that? Lucien's eyes darted to Beverly, who nodded encouragingly. Dad, sometimes when people get older, they misplace things and don't remember. But I'm very organized with my files. I know, but Camilla and I have been worried about some decisions you've been making. The way you've been handling finances, things you've said. I leaned forward, confused. What things? What's wrong with my finances? That's when the dam broke. Lucian, thinking he was talking to someone whose memory couldn't be trusted, began revealing everything. Dad, you signed some documents a few weeks ago. A power of attorney giving me access to help manage your accounts. You probably don't remember, but you were having trouble understanding the paperwork. I signed a power of attorney. Camilla showed me how to... She helped me make sure your signature was correct because your handwriting has been shaky. Beverly gasped softly. Lucien, what are you saying? Mom, we're trying to protect him. The guardianship petition will be filed next week. Then we can manage Dad's assets properly. Everything will be liquidated by February. Guardianship petition. I repeated as if hearing it for the first time. Lucien's voice cracked with emotion. Dad, I know this sounds terrible, but Camilla says it's the only way to protect you from yourself. You've been making poor decisions, getting confused about money. We can't wait until something catastrophic happens. The manipulation was heartbreaking. My son genuinely believed he was saving me. Lucien, do I seem confused right now in this conversation? He looked uncertain. Well, no, but Camilla says people with your condition have good days and bad days. Today might be a good day. That's when I made my move. Son, what if I told you Camilla owes $275,000 to private lenders? What if she's been lying about her business success? Color drained from Lucien's face. That's impossible. Her real estate business is thriving. She just closed 3 major deals. I showed him Torres's report, watching his world crumble with each page. The failed investments, Arizona complaints, systematic guardianship research. She told me her business was growing, he whispered. She said we were building a future together. Lucien, your wife, has been using you to get to me. This was never about protecting me. It was about saving herself from bankruptcy. My son broke down completely sobbing as he realized the woman he'd married had manipulated him into betraying his father. Dad, how could I have been so stupid? I thought I was helping you, but I was destroying our family. You were manipulated by a professional, Lucien. She's done this before. The creditors have been calling me too, he admitted through tears. I didn't understand why her business debts were my problem. She kept saying it was temporary, that your assets would solve everything. She's been planning this for 6 months, son. Long before she convinced you I was declining. Lucien looked up with red, swollen eyes. Dad, I need to get away from her. But I'm scared of what she might do if she realizes I know the truth. With Lucien safely in our guest bedroom and Beverly's recordings as ammunition, I launched the most comprehensive campaign of my life, systematically destroying someone who'd threatened my family. My first target was Camilla's financial lifeline. Using Torres's intelligence about her creditors, I contacted each lender personally. Mr. Rodriguez. I told her primary creditor, I'm Grayson Whitlock, and Camilla has no legal access to my assets. The documents she's shown you are forgeries, and I have police reports to prove it. The effect was immediate. Rodriguez and other lenders froze Camilla's remaining credit lines and demanded immediate payment. Her precarious financial situation became full-scale collapse. Next, I contacted the Pennsylvania Real Estate Commission with detailed complaints backed by Torres's evidence of Arizona violations and current fraud. Professional licensing boards take elder abuse seriously. Camilla's license was suspended pending investigation. Meanwhile, Martinez executed the legal assault. Criminal complaints were filed: elder abuse, forgery, conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft. The evidence package included Beverly's recordings, Torres's investigation bank records, and medical documentation of my competency. Grayson, this is one of the most comprehensive elder abuse cases I've ever seen, Martinez told me. The prosecution will have everything needed for multiple felony convictions. I reached out to other elderly clients Camilla had worked with, sharing Torres's findings about her Arizona history. 3 additional complaints were filed within days, revealing a predatory pattern. The most satisfying call was to Camilla's broker, Patricia Henderson, a woman I'd known through Cleveland business circles. Patricia, one of your agents, has been systematically defrauding my family and potentially other elderly clients, I said, providing evidence copies. Within 24 hours, Camilla was terminated from Henderson Realty, her professional reputation completely destroyed. The pressure campaign worked perfectly. Camilla made increasingly desperate moves, providing more evidence. She attempted accessing my accounts with additional forged documents, not knowing Jim Morrison was flagging every inquiry. She tried emotional manipulation on Beverly, appearing at our house with tears. Beverly, you have to understand, I was just trying to help the family plan for the future. Camilla planted it at our door. Grayson is getting older, and someone needs to look out for his interests. Beverly, confident in her role, recorded everything. Camilla, Grayson seems perfectly capable of managing his affairs. Maybe focus on your own financial problems. Camilla's shock when Beverly revealed she knew about the debts was priceless. She realized her carefully constructed lies were unraveling completely. Camilla's final desperate gambit was pressuring Lucien to return home and fix this misunderstanding. She called repeatedly, sent threatening texts, even appeared at his workplace. She's becoming unhinged, Lucien told us after one disturbing encounter. She accused me of betraying her, said I'd destroyed her life. When I mentioned Arizona, she got scary, said she'd make sure I regretted crossing her. That threat was the final evidence we needed. Martinez immediately filed for a restraining order and alerted police about threats against family members. The end came swiftly. Detective Sarah Walsh from Cleveland Police Financial Crimes Unit had been building the case for 2 weeks. They found Camilla at her former office, apparently trying to convince Patricia Henderson to give her another chance. Camilla Whitlock. Detective Walsh announced entering the conference room where Camilla was pleading her case. You're under arrest for elder abuse, conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, and making terroristic threats. The arrest was witnessed by half a dozen real estate professionals who'd known Camilla as successful. Watching her led away in handcuffs, her professional facade finally stripped away provided unexpected satisfaction. Lucian watched news coverage that evening with mixed relief and sadness. Dad, I can't believe I was married to someone capable of this. How did I not see who she really was? She's a professional manipulator, son. Her job was making sure you didn't see the truth. As we sat in our living room, the same room where this nightmare had begun, at Thanksgiving, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months, complete peace. The woman who'd tried to destroy our family was behind bars. My son was home and healing, and Beverly and I had discovered we made an formidable team. The war was over and we'd won. The courtroom was packed 6 months later when Judge Patricia Morrison delivered Camilla's sentence. The case had attracted attention throughout Pennsylvania as sophisticated elder abuse. Mrs. Whitlock, Judge Morrison said, looking down with obvious disgust, you systematically targeted and manipulated an elderly man and his family for financial gain. This court sentences you to 24 months in state prison, followed by 3 years probation. The judge continued, this case will serve as precedent for how Pennsylvania handles elder financial abuse. The evidence, including recorded confessions and documented forgery, demonstrates your calculated crimes. Camilla was ordered to pay full restitution for legal fees and damages. Lucienne's divorce was finalized within weeks, made simple by her criminal conviction. The real healing took longer. Lucien rented an apartment 10 minutes away, close enough to rebuild our relationship, but far enough for independence. We started family therapy with Dr. Elizabeth Harper, who specialized in manipulation recovery. Lucien was as much a victim as you were Grayson, Dr. Harper explained. Camilla used sophisticated psychological techniques that would fool most people. Therapy helped Lucien recognize warning signs he'd missed, how Camilla had isolated him from questioning friends, how she'd gradually made him doubt his judgment while positioning herself as the expert. Dad, she convinced me that questioning your mental state showed love and concern, Lucien admitted. I thought I was being responsible. Beverly's secret investigation became family pride. Dr. Harper called her an intuitive investigator who trusted instincts over manipulation. Our marriage grew stronger through crisis. Working against a common threat reminded us why we'd fallen in love 42 years earlier. Beverly's intelligence and courage had literally saved our family's future. Lucien found new work with a Cleveland firm specializing in fraud prevention, ironic but fitting. His manipulation experience gave him unique insights into how financial predators operate. Thanksgiving 2025 felt like stepping into an alternate universe. Same dining room, same table, but everything had changed. Lucien arrived with homemade apple pie, chatting enthusiastically about work. Beverly and I exchanged knowing glances, watching our son's genuine happiness. Dad let me help with the turkey this year, Lucien offered, taking the carving knife. Time I learned the family technique properly. Watching him carefully slice meat, using the same methodical approach my father had taught me, I felt profound completion. 3 generations of wisdom had converged. Experience had defeated manipulation. Family loyalty had overcome deception. You know what I'm most grateful for, Lucien said as we sat down. Learning that getting older doesn't mean getting weaker. Dad, watching you outmaneuver Camilla taught me that experience is the most powerful weapon against exploitation. Beverly raised her wine glass. To family partnerships no one sees coming. As we clinked glasses around our restored table, I reflected on the most important lesson. Age doesn't make us vulnerable, it makes us formidable. 40 years of business experience, 4 decades of marriage, and 67 years of life had given me tools no young predator could match. Looking back on this ordeal, I realize I made a crucial mistake that nearly cost me everything. I trusted blindly without staying vigilant. Don't be like me. Don't assume that family love automatically means family loyalty. Even the people closest to you can be manipulated by desperate circumstances. Betrayal stories like mine are becoming increasingly common in America. These grandpa stories you hear aren't just entertainment, they're warnings. When I share betrayal stories with other seniors, I see the same shock I felt that Thanksgiving night. Too many grandpa stories end tragically because we don't recognize the signs early enough. But here's what I've learned. God gave us wisdom through experience for a reason. The Lord blessed me with 40 years of business instincts that saved my family. And thank God for Beverly's courage. Without her secret recordings, Camilla might have succeeded. The most important lesson from these grandpa stories isn't about being suspicious of everyone. It's about trusting your instincts when something feels wrong. Age brings discernment that no young predator can anticipate. Your gray hair represents decades of learning to read people and situations. Betrayal stories teach us that experience is our greatest defense against those who would exploit us. Don't let anyone convince you that getting older means getting weaker. You've survived decades of challenges that makes you formidable, not vulnerable. If this story resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs this warning. Leave a comment below about your own experiences with family manipulation. Your story could save another family. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories that matter. Together, we can protect our community's most precious members.